When we hear legends about immortal warriors with supernatural powers, we often dismiss them with skepticism. After all, immortal humans cannot exist. Perhaps the closest real-world comparison to these myths are the Mongols, those savage tribes who built a vast empire stretching from China to the Middle East. They struck such terror into the hearts of their contemporaries that many believed they were undying warriors. Yet anyone who delves deeper into Mongol history finds them to be ordinary people whose harsh nomadic lifestyle and brutal traditions forged them into ruthless, merciless fighters. However, the myth of the Mongol warrior quickly fades when compared to the Berserkers. You might think, dear reader, that the Berserkers were merely cruel and barbaric men, but you would be sorely mistaken if I told you they possessed inhuman traits. Warriors who could not control themselves, beings closer to beasts than humans. The Berserkers, or Berserks with the singular being berserker, were the elite forces of the Vikings, a barbaric people who lived in Europe. The Vikings were infamous for their savagery and brutality, frequently raiding neighboring kingdoms, attacking England, Ireland, Scotland, and beyond. Legends about them spread rapidly. They were known for their massive ships, adorned at the prow with carvings of serpent-like creatures, one of the Vikings' pagan symbols. Their harsh environment made them physically imposing, and they sowed fear and panic across Europe. Whenever watchmen in towers spotted a massive serpent-headed ship approaching, they would rush to evacuate their towns, terrified of ending up as skulls hanging from the saddles of Viking horses. But an ordinary Viking warrior was nothing compared to the elite Berserkers. These were truly savage fighters. They wore bearskins, and more than that, they behaved like bears. On the battlefield, they fought in a state of hysteria, gnawing on their shields and arms in fits of rage. Mindless warriors, their strange fury turned them into monsters who felt no pain from sword strikes or spear thrusts. They walked barefoot through thorns without flinching, always charging at the front like raging bulls. Entire garrisons would flee at the sight of berserkers, easily recognizable by the bear pelts they wore. Strangely, after winning a battle, they would fall into a deep coma-like sleep, likely due to the exhaustion caused by their hysterical behavior. They held a special status, believed to be the chosen guards of Odin, the Viking god, destined to join the gods in Valhalla after death. Becoming a berserker had strict requirements. One had to be ruthless and hot-tempered, and a key test was hunting a wild beast, often a bear. They believed that by killing such a creature, its spirit would inhabit the warrior, turning him into the beast itself. The berserkers' hysterical rages during battle had a lasting negative effect on their minds. They began experiencing uncontrollable fits of anger at random times, even in peaceful moments. For example, a berserker sitting with his family might suddenly erupt in violence, storming out of the house, smashing everything in his path. From all this, we might conclude that the berserkers were mindless, emotionless brutes, but the source of their fury remains a mystery that has puzzled scholars. There are two main theories. First, the drug-induced frenzy theory. Some believe they consumed hallucinogenic herbs before battle, numbing their senses and causing them to collapse afterward from the drug's effects. Given their constant warfare, they likely ingested large quantities of these substances, which eventually damaged their minds. Second, the inherited mental illness theory. Others argue that the Vikings suffered from hereditary mental disorders. Proponents of this theory dismiss the drug explanation, stating that hallucinogens do not provoke sudden rage, they sedate rather than incite. Instead, the berserkers may have engaged in rituals that fueled their battle frenzy. By the 11th century, Viking power waned as they began converting to Christianity. As for the berserkers, many migrated to other lands in search of a better life, yet they never abandoned their savagery. They formed marauding bands, launching nighttime raids on villages to pillage and slaughter. Their increasing atrocities and animalistic behavior forced European kingdoms to take action. Authorities hunted them down across multiple countries, and their downfall was hastened by their disunity. Scattered and divided, they were easy prey. Soon, the sight of berserkers being burned at the stake became common across Europe. In a short time, the legendary immortal warriors vanished, their myth fading into history as a dark chapter of Europe's past closed forever.